lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. I am Rebecca.
And I'm John.
And I am Mark.
Today we are talking about the Rogue Assassin Akali, which is pretty exciting. She's our first ninja in the lore, and I feel like as we keep going through, we are going to be coming back to this group a lot. Her lore is tied in with so many champions, and I think this is the first time we've really had that.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. First ninja, but second assassin, I guess, technically.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
But she's like, lore-wise, she's an assassin as well. But also game-wise. Akali was released on May 11th, 2010. So actually really close to Ari. So we get our, lore shit from two different places, the official Riot universe page, and we also, John discovered an extensive amount of stuff in the League of Legends wiki, which is incredible if you are interested in learning literally every single thing about every champion.
Very, very good. Can't recommend
gargantuan.
enough.
Yeah, gargantuan is the right word. So the official universe has her bio. It also has a Tales of Runeterra video called The Lesson, which that was released in April of 2020, so that was actually recent.
Yeah, that was for Legends of Runeterra. That was when they were doing all their trailers for that.
Yeah. There's also two short stories, Leaving Waylay? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I think
Awaken actually is on Universe.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Anyway, there's two short stories. There's Leaving Waylay and The Bow in the Kunai, which is very long.
Oh, yeah.
They also tie in the Awaken video, which she's in for 10 fucking seconds. I was really I rewatched it because I know I've seen it before, and I kept waiting, oh, is Akali? No. Is Akali gonna appear? No, she's not here either, huh? Where's Akali?
It's very it's following that movie or that cinematic follows several stories that are referenced in other parts of Akali's lore.
Okay. I didn't recognize any of them, but I watched it before I read any of the lore, which was maybe my mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd seen it before reading the lore and after, and I really enjoyed rewatching it after with all the little ooh, I know what's going on. You have the context, right?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the videos are always really fun, but there's such an added layer to them if you actually know what's happening. Even just playing the game and knowing that aspect makes it more exciting. But I kept waiting for her to appear in the Jin section because I know that she's tied to that story, but it had nothing to do with her. The wiki, however, also has this really short video just called Akali, which is from a 2018 Thunderdome project.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's random.
Yeah, so Thunderdome, for people who don't know, is a project that Riot does every year, and in 3 days, different teams group up and try to create something. And they kind of have it always sounded like a science fair to me, to be honest, at the end.
Basically what it was.
Yeah.
Everyone, shows what they've just made. And I'm excited to talk about that later because both John and Mark have participated in Thunderdome while they worked at Riot. So
I've not done Thunderdome. I will say.
Really?
I never did Thunderdome. Yeah.
Oh.
I regret it. It's like a massive regret that I never did it.
Oh. We'll have our own Thunderdome one day.
Yeah.
I really love stuff like that where you just kind of just pile in and try to do something ridiculous in a short span of time.
It's a good opportunity to they let you step away from your normal job duties, and they're you don't need to do something that's tied to your job, just literally anything that you think could add player value. Spend the next 3 days working on it. It was really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, that's super interesting. We had a Thunderdome mug that I broke
very recently,
a week ago. I felt so bad because it was our last piece of Riot merchandise I hadn't destroyed.
I've got my t-shirts. I'm wearing one right now.
You are. The other thing the wiki had are 6 issues of a Zed comic that John and Mark read and I didn't because they're titled Zed, not Akali.
It's fair. That's a fair point. I'm not going to argue.
I know she's in them, and I know you guys want to talk about that, so we'll get to that. But first, John's going to give us a summary of Akali's bio so we know who the fuck it is we're talking about.
Yeah, so we'll just do a quick little synopsis here. So Akali was born into the Kinko Order, who are basically the self-appointed keepers of Ionia's sacred balance. They follow 3 fundamental principles, which are impartiality, judgment, and the elimination of imbalance, or as they refer to them in the order, watching the stars, coursing the sun, and pruning the tree. Now, her mother, Mayem Jomen Tafai, is the Fist of the Shadow, and she raised Akali along with her partner, Tano. She studied with Kennen, who is my favorite character, and learned speed and agility and shuriken technique. Before she was old enough to join the Order, though, because she was working to kind of take over for her mother as the Fist of the Shadow, a wayward acolyte named Zed returned. He wrested power from Master Kusho, who was the Eye of the Twilight, and kind of headed up the Order in a bloody coup and transformed the Kinko Order into the Order of Shadow. Akali fled with her mom, Shen, Kennen, and a handful of others. Shen took over for Master Kusho as the Eye of the Twilight, and they started to rebuild the Kinko Order. When she turned 14, she began training in earnest to succeed her mother as the Fist of Shadow. She mastered the Kama and the Kunai, but unlike a lot of the other acolytes, she didn't have any magical ability. About this time is when Noxus was kind of attacking Ionia, and the Kinko and Order of Shadow had kind of made an uneasy alliance to deal with the Noxian invasion of Ionia. But she saw her homeland basically suffering and felt like they weren't doing enough to prune the tree, which would require eliminating everyone who was threatening the balance. She thought Shen was too pacifist, and she was tired of sitting back and watching. So she was trained as an assassin, so she left the Order to maintain balance her own way by pruning the tree.
Da-da-da. Killing bitches.
Killing bitches left and right.
Pushing up daisies.
Yeah, how did everyone feel about the bio? I liked it. It was, like, a little tropey as far as, like, a story goes, but I definitely related to Akali in feeling, like, anger at people who are kind of sitting around and watching others take over and doing nothing about it. Not at all relevant to any current situation happening. But yeah, I definitely found that anger really relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think there's a lot of names. There's a lot of lore. I think like nearly the first half is very much not about Akali, and it's very much more setting up all of the pieces. It feels like, I guess, like we got a lot of like I said, we got a lot of names to drop. We've got a lot of relationships to kind of put on the plate. Like, oh, we got to really make sure we understand what's happened with Zed and Shen, at least at the base, so we can then start talking about Akali and kind of what she wants.
Definitely. She's a champion who requires a lot of context.
Yes.
And I think since she was first alphabetically, that's the story we get the context in, is her bio.
Yeah, I feel like, who do you think would be the best champion to start with in entering this story? Do you think it would be Shen?
Maybe. I think he's...
I was just curious. It was interesting to come from...
I think, honestly... you're probably not gonna lie. Starting from the Zed comic is probably a good place, because that starts with Shen and Zed as children.
Okay, so you two really liked the comics. Do you kind of want to start talking there? Because there's a lot going on in Akali's backstory. She kind of has her own little universe, and it was neat. I really felt like immersed in it as I got into the short stories, particularly the really long one, which was the bow and the kunai.
Yeah, it really fleshed it out nice. Kunai, yeah.
Kunai. Yeah. But if it's best to start with, because I didn't feel the Zed Shen connection. In one of the short stories, they do mention that Zed was like Shen's BFF, and he felt really betrayed. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, Shen, that sucks, bro. But like, I didn't get any of that connection, so. Yeah. We can start with the comics if you guys want to, though.
Yeah, sure. I mean, did you want to take it away on that one, Mark?
Just like a high level, like, do you want to quickly go through what happens? Spoilers, I guess. Because there's a lot of development here, I think. Shen and Zed are a classic pair in League of Legends. Like, I think in the old lore they used to be brothers. They're not now, but they're as close as brothers. So it's kind of the same thing, I guess we'll say. And John, you need to jump in here to remind me, because I read like the first 4 like right through, and then I waited and I read like the last 2. So the first part's a little bit fuzzy.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I can do the first part then, and you can take over for the latter.
Sure.
The first part is kind of the non-Akali part anyway.
Yes.
The first part starts with just kind of like Zed and Shen. Shen is the son of Master Kusho, who's the kind of the head of the Kinko order. He starts training with Zed. Zed basically was abandoned, and he's basically a cleaner for the Kinko.
So he was a janitor?
Yeah.
As real name?
He's like
what was his real name? Gosha? Something like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, he's got several names
Yeah, he
throughout
does.
this, but his given name was that. And
We'll just call him Zed to avoid confusion, because I've had some
No, it's like a
wine,
big deal.
and I can't get over him being a janitor. I just really need.
But one day Kusho's like, "Hey, you, come train with my son."
Do you mean Zed? Oh no,
No.
Kusho
was the leader of
the and
Right.
saw Zed,
Zed, right? Mm-hmm.
who didn't go by that name yet, but saw him
Yeah.
and was like, "Hey, come train with my son. You're about the same age."
Okay.
And that was kind of what he had wanted to do this whole time. Like, he was hoping that someone would, like some master would take him under his wing and train him. Hadn't happened yet. He'd been there for a while. So Shen just kind of kicks his ass a bunch, and then he refuses to give up. And finally, Kusho's like, "Yeah, cool. All right, you can train with me." So they grow up together, basically, as brothers, training, best friends. And kind of their big first mission together is chasing the golden demon, who turns out to be Jin.
Fuck yeah.
He's just murdering folks left and right in like big dramatic fashion and horrifying ways. So they are, and at this point they didn't know he was actually a person. Everyone legit thought he was a demon. So he's hunting them, and all sorts of big drama happens there. They do finally like find and capture him, but the whole thing completely changes both of them. Like, Shen was, I guess, well known for being very humorous and outgoing, and he became very solemn after this whole thing, just seeing all the murder. Zed became super disenchanted with the way of the Kinko, because when they finally did catch him, he's like, all right, well, we gotta kill him now because he's murdered so many people. And Kusho was like, no, we gotta lock him up.
Ew, so he's like Batman.
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, he ends up breaking out again.
Yeah, shocking.
So it's Joker.
Yeah. He's very, very Joker-like,
Yes.
especially in his real elaborate like setups and plots and shit. Like, very, very Jokery.
That's funny. We'll get to that when we get to the Jin. Oh my god, we just watched Wishmaster. To Jin, but I always tied him more as Cohen from BioShock.
He's very Cohen-y
He's
too.
very Cohen.
In
from
fact,
BioShock.
many of his quotes in the comic are just straight up Cohen.
Right. I always want to play BioShock whenever Jin's involved.
Interesting.
He talks a lot about ugly what is it? Ugly symmetry. He you'll see people and he'll describe them as like, ugh, so hideously symmetrical. I could make her so beautiful.
Oh, he'd love me then. I'm not symmetrical at all.
It's like, okay, maybe a little more symmetry.
All right, so Zed and Shen are sad boys.
Sad boys. Zed eventually comes back and is like, nah, like when Noxus is invading and no one's doing anything about it, he's like, no, we gotta do something. We can't be passive on this. And Kusho refused, so Shen kind of broke in, stole some shadow magic, murdered Kusho, and skedaddled.
Zed, that is.
Which is why Shen is so upset with him. We
Because he
find
killed his
out
dad.
later that's not exactly what happened.
There's tons
I don't want to
of
dig
melodrama.
too deep into that because I
Yeah.
feel like that will be more exciting to do with Shen and Zed, which will be like a year and a half from now.
Yeah. As far as Akali knows, too, that's what happens.
Okay, so let's stick with what Akali knows, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a good place to kind of stop it. I guess, well, the only other thing, involving Akali is they make a little jaunt because Shin and Zed, Jin breaks out again. Jin gets loose again, right?
Just
Shocker.
fucking kill him, dog.
Walks out of Arkham Asylum like nobody's fucking business. But he's out doing his thing. There's a lot of descriptions about people's faces getting turned into flowers. It's really nice. But he makes his way to Piltover, and Akali chases after him. This is the one kind of issue, I think 4, I want to say, maybe 5, where Akali kind of cameos and for the most part shows up. At this point, she's left the Kinku Order, which I guess we'll also get into. Well, I guess we mentioned in the bios that she's kind of officially broken with them and is going to do her own thing.
Yeah, she's the Rogue Assassin.
Yes, Rogue, very much. But much like how Zed and Shin are teaming up, she's teaming up with Shin to, like, Jin is just such a big fucking deal. But she chases him to Piltover, and there's kind of a chase of Shin and Zed following her. Akali gets captured, gets a little damseled. Which, I don't know. I don't normally get I don't get too bothered by it normally, but as someone, like, if you were really into Akali, this would feel a little lame. Like, she's just bait at the end of the day. She's very Batgirl in that way. I don't know. She helps. She's not, like, completely, like, useless, but it's whatever.
I think it underscored, I think they had a lot of what they did with Akali was setting her up. Like, she's very impetuous. She rushes in. Yeah. She's less strategic, which is kind of the exact foil to Jin's over-calculating. Everything is planned down to the detail. So, like, it did kind of feel lame to see her step into that trap. It kind of made sense given both of their characters. And she is kind of the one who also gets to capture him in the end.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like I said, it's not a big deal by any means. And I think you got a definitely fair point that it makes sense in that way.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where even though it does make sense, it's such a common trope for, like, a female character to end up just being a damsel and being bait in some way that it does get kind of frustrating, even if it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing to make the female characters impetuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned tropey, Rebecca, and that's how I felt about Akali in a lot of ways, but both before and after reading the lore, I guess I would say.
Yeah, which isn't always a bad thing. I don't really know. I still don't know how I feel about Akali, to be honest. Being after reading all of this, I guess let's go to the other short story, the Leaving Waylay one, because this one's pretty short, and I feel like we can tackle it pretty quickly. Akali is getting a tattoo, and she's just kind of like watching her assassinate someone. She assassinates a councilman who has sold his people to, the enemy for money. I straight up thought she was going to accidentally kill somebody else, because they really did set Akali up to be, like you said, impetuous and reckless. And I thought she was going to kill the tattoo artist because she mentioned, like, creating smoke and then throwing the kunai? I almost said shuriken. Like, she's not.
She does have a
shuriken
there yet.
Too.
Yeah, she throws that too. Actually,
I've never played Akali. I don't know how she works. I just get killed by her instantly, and then I get mad. but yeah, so I was kind of pleased it didn't go that way. But also, it was one of those. It was another story that they added that didn't really add anything to her lore. It just kind of, like, showed us a scene of her life, I guess.
I liked it in that, to your point, it demonstrated mastery.
It did. It's true.
That's something that I think if you were to take something like the comics in isolation, it does make Akali look like a fucking chump.
Kind of a jobber.
But it's tough because she's up against a master. In this one, it's I like that they're showing, like, okay, she's up against bodyguards, like normal bodyguards, and not even a problem. Like, just cuts through them.
Yeah, this was written by Michael McCarthy, by the way. I just want to make sure I credit from now on. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I liked how this is so random, but when you read fantasy, a lot of the times people still include, like, misogyny for some reason. But at no point were they like, "You're a woman. What are you gonna do?" They, like, instantly, like, take out their swords, like, "Oh, what the fuck do you want, lady?" And I liked that. It's a small thing, but it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, the whole scene flows much better for it.
It's true.
Her just being kind of in the blink of an eye just fucks these guys up. It's like, yeah, that's more her shtick, it seems. I wish we had got more info about her tattoos. I was trying to find info on a little bit of info anyway on what they meant or what they might be. Did you guys happen to stumble on anything, John?
Not in terms of, like, their, like, what they symbolize or anything, but I know she does have, like, visible tattoos, like, on her body. But
yeah, that's true, Mark. That's a good point. That would have been interesting to see why she has those tattoos, because she's very tatted up.
Yeah, she is. I mean,
she just loves to get inked.
Maybe she just loves getting inked. It seems very painful based on the fantasy way they have to do it.
That's
To the
true.
bones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just digging into her with like fish bones.
It's well written though. I did like it. If anyone's interested, if you're interested in reading it, it's pretty quick, but it just it just felt it kind of immerses you in the world a little bit, which is nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big story is The Bow and the Kunai by Joey Yu. It's written. This was very long,
Oh yeah, definitely
like
the
borderline
longest so far.
novella. No, it's not, but
is definitely a good read. I feel like it. Everywhere there were holes in all the rest of the story, I feel like this filled them in very nicely.
it reads
Yes.
like a story, and that's what's really different about it.
Yeah, as
It's
opposed
like a
to
story.
like the bio, which bios always read like a synopsis of
Which-
a character,
which is
Just
fine.
fine. Like,
Yeah, and the other short stories we've gotten have just been like a kind of a blink in someone's life. They've been really, really quick. But in this, I felt like I came out of it knowing so many people, which has been different from everything else. It's also mostly not from Akali's point of view,
yeah.
which is also really interesting. So this follows a girl named Faey. She's a young neophyte being trained by the Kinko?
Yeah, which is, and neophytes seem to be the step right below acolyte.
Yeah, so they're kind of still in training. She's about 13, but she is kind of looked up to by all the other neophytes, and she's been taken in by Akali's mother, who we did kind of mention before. Akali's dad was killed when Zed kind of took over. We're following the Kinko. God, why do I always want to say
Kinkos.
Kinkao? Like cacao.
I said Kinku.
Kinku? I think John
I don't know.
found out it was Kinko.
Yeah,
That's probably right. It sounds
I looked
right.
up on. I mean, I'm trusting Necrit on this one since he's kind of like the lore guy on YouTube, but I'm just going with his pronunciation.
Sure.
Although I guess he's probably in a cinematic somewhere. I should rewatch a few.
Possibly. The Kinku, though, now are kind of in hiding, and they're training a lot of neophytes right now, trying to rebuild their numbers, I guess. Akali in this story is about 9 years old. One day, the Navori Brotherhood, they come back.
Hey.
They appear, and they seem to be on their way to the Kinko's haven, looking for people to kind of steal for their own army. Faye advises the children to hide in the trees and make sounds of a gray owl, which is an ominous sign for the Ionians. It works, but the children end up entangled in like a corrupted spirit tree. Is this a champion? I was trying to figure out if
Spirit tree?
yeah,
I don't think so. No.
it's corrupted. For a second I thought it was Scion. Because they said that he was like in like the belly, like this fiery belly, and I was really
interesting.
confused.
No, I think that they do this a few other times too, but just in a few other of the smaller stories, like Kennen has one, and it's mentioned a little bit in Akali cinematic too. But yeah, they're occasionally, the way they say is when someone dies, they'll go to like the spirit realm. If they die in certain ways, they become like rage spirits in the spirit realm and corrupt kind of living things attempting to pass over again.
Okay, interesting. So Faye and Akali manage to help the children escape, but in the process, Faye loses a leg. When she wakes up, she blames Akali, who kind of runs off in sadness, and Akali's mother goes to Faye and promises they will find a way for her to walk again. It ends with Akali just kind of watching her mom bond with this other girl, which is a theme throughout the story, that Akali's mother has taken in someone else as her protege and kind of pushes Akali aside. And that's the end of the story. But it's very long. There's a lot more to it than that. That's just like the meat of it. Thoughts?
My mind was fucking blown to find out how old Kennen was in that story.
Yeah. That's what something I wanted to know in general was your thoughts on Kennen. Like, because, I mean, he's your favorite. So, like, what's it like to see him depicted just in this even?
It was very cool. I think through his like in-game text, you always like he talks kind of like he's younger and like a child, and his quotes are kind of like that, and his character is very playful. But Akali kind of mentions like, oh, he's got the voice of a child, but he's got the wisdom of a much older person. And I talk about it's apparently been alive for like over 200 years, so he's like hella old. But he's still like the most agile of the Kinko Order. And I really liked the relationship that he had with Akali, kind of like training her in agility and always kind of, while not outright saying anything to her mom, always kind of like hinting like, hey, you remember you've got a daughter, right? Like,
she's good at this too.
yeah, she's real good. But I liked his character a lot. They make him badass, and
that's hard with Yordles. I feel like I have a really hard time placing the Yordles in a realistic-ish setting. Once Kennen got involved, I was like, God, I really can't picture this as like a real-ass thing now. And I was reading his dialogue and like trying to place the Kennen voice to the dialogue, and I couldn't do it.
That was tough.
It was so hard.
Sure.
He just sounded like a Disney animal who had smoked like 10 packs a day for 100 years. That's like, every time I tried to imagine his voice.
Yeah, much more like a Kung Fu Panda character than the in-game audio would have you would believe.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see his tie to Akali. I was unaware of that. And how much Akali admires Shen. Even though she abandons him, we do get some parts from her point of view. And when she sees Shen, when he appears, she's always like really excited and like, oh my God, my buddy.
Yeah, that I didn't realize was that they were actual friends. I kind of assumed there was always a distance there, and it would help explain like why she chafed so much at him. But yeah, it's fine.
They kind of mentioned in the bio that it seemed like Shen kind of let her go in a way. Like she did run off to go like kill bitches, but he was like, maybe she'll come back. It's kind of like the Shen approach. But what do we think of Faye? Is she in? I'm very curious if you two have heard of her.
She's got to be a future champion sometime, right? Like that's right.
So
they even describe her.
I want a Faye champion, Riot, please.
Here are my thoughts.
Okay,
let's hear them.
I would be willing to bet that they have attempted to make her a champion and couldn't find a way to do it without differentiating her from the other archers in game. I'd be willing to bet there are people pushing to get Faye in.
I hope so. I'd love that. I thought she was going to die. With it being from her point of view, I felt like it made sense thematically for her to die, and that's why Akali ends up taking over for her mom. But
I'm curious if when it'll probably happen eventually, but when they do get added, like, is she gonna have like some, Piltover and like some Piltovan or Zonite augmentations on the legs, or are they gonna find some like Ionian, more natural way to make her like walk, or like more magical, I guess. Honestly, they'd probably have to do something like that for silhouette reasons.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think that's when I was reading that. And like I said, they described the bow as having a very specific. It was like longer on the top and short on the bottom. And I was like, man, I can just see the silhouette of this champion and how she's not going to look like Ashe. And that's like the biggest thing. It's like she cannot look like Kindred or Ashe. We got to make sure.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Sure, I completely agree.
Just don't make her look like a goat.
Oh fuck, we did it again.
Like Kindred.
I really like this. I think this is maybe my second favorite thing behind that Vestayan field guide. But this was really, this was good in a very different way, obviously, given its length. Like you said, I think coming out of it feeling like a lot of people is a really good feeling to have when it comes to League lore. It's like, man, look at that characters and everything. Oh man.
And I'm excited to get further into this to see like if these characters who are kind of bit characters in Akali's story, like, do they come back in other people's stories too? Like, are there connections like that? I hope so, because that'd be really cool, even if they're just like a cameo.
Yeah.
I'd be excited.
I mean, most of this is from Faye's point of view, so you feel really attached to her by the end. But it's also really heartbreaking because she sees Akali as like, she kind of is aware that she's sort of taking Akali's place and feels bad about it. And she cares about Akali a lot. So, and there was a lot of like pain when she woke up and she blamed Akali for losing her leg, and then Akali ran off and she felt bad about that. So like, did they make amends? Like, there's this whole point between Akali being 9 and 14 when she runs off, what was their relationship like?
And the big missing piece here, like, it's very specifically stated that Faye is training to take over as Fist of the Shadow from Akali's mom. And we know that didn't. We know Akali took over. What happened in that span of 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I think if anything, like you're kind of saying, it leaves me wanting more. Yeah, a lot more of some of these transformative or really impactful conversations.
And that's the first time I've felt that with any League lore.
That's true so far with the 3 that we've done.
I mean, we're on the 3rd one, so that's still exciting to get it that early. But
sure.
Yeah.
I will say that with Ari made me want to learn more about Vastaya in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time where like I've been invested enough in a specific character that I was like, yeah, all right, I want to dig in there.
I was
and
like,
it wasn't even
Faye?
the main character.
I know. Where is she? Where did she go? Akali's mom, why are you being such a dick? You have a daughter. She's pretty cool. She hangs out with a lightning bear.
Yeah, he is.
I couldn't think of another name for a Yordle that was cute. I'm sorry. Dog? Pomeranian?
Like chipmunks, really.
Oh,
yeah,
chipmunks,
they're kind of like big squirrels. Oh. Is that offensive?
Any Yordles listening to this, I'm so sorry that I called you a Pomeranian.
Shit. Oh, so talking about Akali's tattoos. Reading this, I thought back on it, and I did come up with a theory about the tattoos. Okay, so remember they identified, the Navori who showed up in the story were identifying themselves using tiger tattoos?
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And at this point in Akali's life, when she's getting the tattoo, she's broken from the Kinko. I'm never going to say that shit right. The Kinko.
I think you got it.
Hey. And you would think she probably leans towards the Navori, right? She probably pretty aggressive, militaristic. Maybe it's something that they do. Maybe tattoos are like a big deal. It's hard. I don't know for sure, but
I'm not sure. John's now Googling Akali tattoos.
yeah.
Yeah, because I was curious.
What is her tattoo?
Yeah, like what
It's a
specific?
dragon,
She's
I
got a
think.
lot of
Isn't
them.
it?
I was
It's
curious
so
if
hot.
it's got a dragon. Because I knew it was some sort of animal. I was like, did she get a tiger? I would have been surprised if she had gotten a tiger, because I think she agreed with wanting to take a stand against the invaders, but not necessarily to the level that the Navori Brotherhood did.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard
In
to
fact,
tell.
I think she did encounter them in the Zed comics. And
She did, but did she know? Did she know they were there? There's layers of people lying and shit. Did she know? I thought they were just like a. I don't know. I don't remember the exact. Maybe I'm thinking of a
I was
different
gonna say I
interaction.
thought she knew. Like I thought she referred to them like that, but I
Maybe.
could be wrong.
I think you're. Yeah, you might be right. Gosh, it's weird because she does show up a couple times.
Yeah, I feel like she'd
that's-
approve of their goals, but not their methods.
Probably. They seem pretty far gone.
And they seem like a group that does not care if you agree with their goals, not their methods. Like if you are in their way at all, like they gonna try and kill you.
Yeah, I mean they were getting child soldiers in this story, right? Like,
So who's tied to dragons in League? Shyvana? Maybe we'll learn about it in a million years when we get
maybe
to
it's an Aurelian
Shyvana.
soul. Maybe he's like a foundational myth in Ionia or something.
Aoshin,
Who's that?
which I don't know if they made as
Isn't
part
that
of the
Aurelian? Oh yeah, right. Obviously, sorry.
He's
No,
the
I
one
know
that
what you
everyone
mean.
thinks like he was like a dragon character that was teased that got kind of turned into Aurelian Soul, but was very different than what was originally teased as Aoshin, and then they released Aoshin as a little legend in TFT. So
She got a tattoo of a TFT character.
actually, that's Aoshin.
That's what it is.
I have a screenshot of TFT on my monitor right now.
John's really big into TFT. Well, we'll never know if that's the case.
I think he was supposed to be a wind dragon as opposed to Aurelian Soul, who ended up being the, celestial dragon.
Maybe we'll get new stuff one day. We'll have to have an Akali part 2.
Sure.
Just about her tattoos.
All the little side bits that we don't quite know right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think a little bit in this and a little bit in the bio talking about the Kinko, their ideals. I understood watching the stars and how that equated to impartiality, and I understood pruning the tree. I think that's a very clear metaphor. but coursing the sun was and even that whole idea of like, okay, so is Kennen a glorified messenger? I'm not trying to be a dick, but is that like it seems a little bit like kind of that's what he does.
That's kind of what it sounded like.
It seemed very much like when I was reading the description, I was like, okay, I get it. Like one observes, passes the observations on to the Kennen. Kennen would pass judgment. Whatever that judgment is would be carried out by the Fist, who would prune the tree or not, depending on Kennen's judgment. That's how it made sense to me, but the way they described it in the story very much seemed like Kennen was not passing judgment. Kennen was communicating the judgment to everyone,
right?
Which is less cool. So in my head canon, that's not how it is. In my head canon, he's passing judgment and then communicating it out to everyone.
In John's hot Kennen fan fiction.
I mean, look, I like that idea better. It feels a little like they kind of had to retrofit it to like, well, Kennen's like really fast and he runs around. It's like, okay, well, what can he do? Well, he can't be the guy who passes judgment because that's what Shin does, and he can't be the guy who goes and kills people because that's what Akali does. It's like, messenger. I don't know. I'm not trying to take away from Kennen.
It was weird because in the comic, they were very specific about like the Eye of the Twilight was there, and he was the only one of the Kinko Order that was hunting Jin. And when they did finally catch him, he very specifically said, like, it's not our place to kill him. We can't pass judgment. That's not what I do. I'm the Eye of the Twilight. I cannot pass judgment.
That's
which
true.
Leads me to believe that it is the middle person who is supposed to pass judgment. So I don't know whether they just did a poor job of portraying Kennen's job in the short story, or whether there's just kind of conflicting
or maybe
ideas.
it kind of fell apart a little bit after the real leader, because it seemed like kind of paint Shen as like not knowing what the fuck he's doing.
That's true.
He just seems like, a little afraid and timid. At least in the, what was the story called? Faye's story.
Oh yeah,
the bow and the kunai.
Yeah, the bow and the kunai.
Yeah, so maybe just the roles were more clearly defined when Master Kusho was in place. So
yeah, it's possible.
And they got a little blurred when when Shen took over. Mm-hmm. So things became less clear, and he became more passive.
To be honest, it seems like a flawed and kind of stupid system anyway.
I thought it was kind of weird that they would pick one, and like that's your what you train in. Like as a neophyte, like eventually you say like I'm gonna do one of these. I don't know.
Yeah, it is weird, especially when you have so many. It seems like so many humans in the neophytes, and you have someone like Kennen as one of the head, because like it makes sense. You can train to take over for the Fist of the Shadow because she's a human. She has a normal human lifespan. She's gonna die. She's gonna need backup. But like if you have a whole group of people training to take over for Kennen, who has been alive already for like over 200 years, like
realistically, you ain't taking that over in your lifetime.
That spot's his, dog.
Executive senior assistant manager to Kennen.
I didn't think about that. This is random, but I liked how they portrayed Kennen being so fast. There was a time that he's walking next to Akali's mom. What was her name?
Mayim.
Mayim, yeah.
Mayim. And he's very tiny, so you would think that he has to run to keep up, but because he's so quick, he has to run like in circles as he's going forward, which I found that a very funny visual.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was neato. I also had forgotten that he appeared in, was it the Awaken cinematic that he appeared? I think that was the first time we really get Kennen. I remember you being excited, John.
Yes, it was the first good time you get Kennen for sure.
Yeah, he like lightning rushes in and like ults, like it's dope.
Yeah, it was very cool. I think you had like minor appearances from him in a very old Dominion cinematic.
Yeah.
And the Ignite cinematic for Worlds, but this was the first time you get a cool Kennen moment. And
a story one. Like I said, I think it is hard to portray the Yordles in a way that's not like a Pixar film, and I think that's hard sometimes because sometimes their cinematics are really dramatic and realistic, and when you throw a Yordle in there, it completely throws it off. And it kind of did in that one, too.
I like the Yordles. I guess I kind of disagree. I think the Yordles, to me, really are some of my I think when we get to them,
love the Yordles.
They're going to be my favorite characters because they feel so like... they feel really Runeterra to me, I guess. They feel very like, oh, that's League, is these Yordles. I don't know. I get what you're saying, though, for sure.
I think just visually, they're a little cartoonish when they appear.
That's fair.
Also, to touch real quick, Akali has a few alternate universe appearances.
Oh, no, John.
She, as mentioned, is part of the KDA universe.
Mm-hmm, of course.
But she then also used her KDA fame to spin off and form her own group, Giants.
She's in Giants?
Yeah.
Maybe True Damage?
True Damage, yeah.
I was like, Giants is the song.
No, True Damage.
Oh, well, damn, Akali. Shit. Rude.
No, a side project. She's still in KDA.
Okay.
It's all love.
Yeah, but so she put that group together. She is also part of the Project cinematic universe.
I don't really love the Project. So maybe there's like some lore there that I just don't understand. But
there was some pretty cool. I read a few of the short stories. They're pretty neat.
Because aesthetically, they're not my thing.
Oh, I like them. I didn't see anything about the short stories. I need to go check those out.
Oh yeah, there's one that's God, what's the name of it? She was listed as like a side character in it, and she wasn't, I don't think, mentioned by name. Like it more focused on Project Vi, Project Vayne, and Project Jin. They were kind of the main characters of the story, but it was kind of a cool glimpse into the universe of how like everyone there is just like they're all augmented to the point where they're basically just AI, and but it was very cool. I dug it.
Yeah, but we'll explore that more when we get to Jin. Because he's the first one alphabetically in the Project series.
I guess Akali's technically the first
well,
one.
Well, you said she wasn't in as much.
Yeah, I think a few of the earlier ones are probably going to be in there pretty early.
Yeah. Any other AUs in there?
I don't think so. Actually, there wasn't as many.
You mean there's no like AU for her nurse skin?
You know what? That affects our actual universe.
She does show it. I mean, I guess technically speaking.
Oh no.
Nurse Akali does show up in the school one, the Academy universe. She does show up as the school nurse for Academy, and Vlad has a big crush on her and keeps hurting himself so he can keep going to the nurse's office.
Oh my god, this is the most weirdo fan fiction ever.
But then one time he goes and Shen MD is there instead. Your Dr. Shen is there instead.
Oh.
It's very disappointing.
It's a damn shame.
That spurred a different alternate universe. Let's ship Vlad and Shen. Some coffee shop AU love.
God. Bum.
All right. Any last thoughts on Akali?
I dig her.
Yeah.
You do like playing Akali?
Yeah, she's fun. She's my style.
Oh man, yeah. I love not having her on the enemy team. I like having you play her. Yeah.
You're right.
I think when I first started playing League, I was looking. I mean, I didn't have all the champions, so like I had to use whatever was on free rotation because they also refuse to spend money on games if they're free to play. So I had to play what was on free rotation, and the first champion that was a ninja was Shen, and I was so excited. I was like, oh fuck yes, a ninja finally. And if you've never played League, Shen plays as like a big tanky boy.
Not John style.
Was not ninja-like at all. And I was so disappointed. And then Kennen and Akali came on free rotation shortly after, and I was so excited.
What's funny is you don't play Zed with all of that.
Right?
You do love assassins, and you love the ninjas.
Yeah.
All right, next time we play ARAM and Zed appears, you have to play him.
I think so. All right, I've done that.
He's going to talk out of it.
My problem is that I play so much LeBlanc, and
too good at LeBlanc. That's the problem.
LeBlanc, she W's forward, and then if you're in trouble, you hit W again, and she zips back. Shen throws his shadow forward, and you need to take his shadow, but once you take it, you're there. You're not popping back to your other shadow, and I fuck that up all the time. I'm always like, I'm gonna attack.
Flash.
Oh no, I can't get out.
Maybe you need Yone then.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, what you should be doing is throwing your shadow backwards and then walking into the enemy team and attacking and then zipping back to your shadow. But like, I'm so used to LeBlanc, I fuck it up.
You'll figure it out, honey.
Now what you do is you re-roll Zed, and then you play LeBlanc.
Yeah, more accurately.
That's what I would always re-roll Zed every time. We almost exclusively play ARAM, by the way.
Almost as well. I guess TFT doesn't count as ARAM.
I don't play TFT.
Yeah, me either. Real quick, the Kinko, they talk about them walking between like the spirit world and kind of being like ghost cops. So I call them inner poltergeist.
Ghost cops.
Wait, what did you call him?
Interpoltergeist.
Ah,
Hey.
That's what I
Very
I wrote
nice.
that down. I was proud of it. So
So from now on, that's what we have to refer to them as.
no, I like ghost cops better at this point. Actually,
Ghost Cops is fun. I mean, it could be both. You don't have to choose, Mark.
it was very Avatar-like.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I skipped ahead and read one of the Kennen short stories, but that one
I
was
did too.
very Avatar-like.
You guys, we got a while before we get to Kennen. I know.
I'm not going to talk about him. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything important for Akali. He's foundational in her,
It's true.
upbringing, I guess.
Unfortunately, we have a little while, I think, before we get back to the ninjas.
That'll be good. It'll, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's true. And by that, I think you mean we're going to forget all of this.
Yep.
And we'll be like, wait, who are the Kinko? The what? Oh, Ghost Cops. That's
Ione,
right.
yeah.
Interpoltergeist.
Who the fuck is Faye? Cool. So that's everything you need to know about the Rogue Assassin Akali. Not true at all. Please read those short stories. They were pretty fun. But that's gonna do it with our discussion. John and I have another podcast that we do where we watch the highest rated movie and lowest rated movie in a franchise, and it's called A Series of Unfortunate Sequels. We just watched Wishmaster 3. It was bad.
Gates of Hell or Road to Hell
something
or
about
something
hell.
hell.
We couldn't remember the title, but that was that.
Seconds after we finished watching it, the title was gone from our brain.
Forever gone. Like this lore will be eventually. Because unfortunately next week we do not get to talk about an assassin, but I am excited because we are talking about a champion I know absolutely nothing about, the Minotaur, Alistar.